In today's video, we're talking about the DXY, the EURUSD, and the pound for the week ending May 10th, 2024. I didn't have a chance to get to a weekly forecast over the weekend because we were celebrating a couple of birthdays in the family. So I did want to give you guys kind of a mini forecast today to share what I'm watching for this week. Now, if you guys want my help with your trading, click on the link at the top of this video to get 90% off lifetime access to VIP. That's going to give you access to the new course that I just put out, plus Discord, so real-time market updates for Forex, crypto, commodities, and stocks. Also, exclusive setups, plus you're going to see my trades in real time. So check out the link in the description of this video. If you are on the website, click on the Join VIP link. Okay, so let's take a look at the DXY first of all. We're going to kind of flip back and forth between the DXY, the Euro, and the pound, and I will share what I'm watching for this week. Now, obviously, markets kind of remain, mostly unfavorable, in my opinion at least. And, some of that is this stuff here with the DXY, obviously, very sideways, very back and forth. It did look like we had a bull flag forming here, and then it kind of got chopped up through here. We had a false break, and the market is now retesting 105. So the first thing that I want to point out right now with the DXY is that this area down here at 105, we've talked about this before, but this is a critical support level now for the dollar. And this right here, the fact that the DXY is testing this, and it did test it on Friday, it dipped below, closed, Friday and last week above, this means that I do not want to be shorting the dollar. So this immediately rules out trying to long the euro or the pound, because in order to long the euro USD or the pound USD, I have to simultaneously short the dollar. And I don't want to short the DXY as it's coming into 105 support. Okay, so that immediately rules out, trying to long the euro or the pound, at least for me, because with the DXY above 105, we still have the potential for this right here just being a pullback within this channel and seeing the DXY rally from this area, okay, which would mean, of course, a lower euro and pound. So with the DXY at 105 right now, we do have the market holding above this. Of course, we don't really have any kind of indication, though, that the market wants to head higher. One thing that I pointed out last week is that one sign for strength here, okay, could be a move back here above these recent lows. Okay, so this was a range, clearly for the DXY. And we saw it break down through here to test 105. So one way to signal strength for this market would be for the market to reclaim this range. If we were to see that, then in my opinion, we're headed back here toward the 107 area. Now, of course, without this right here, though, without the market reclaiming that range, we don't know if 105 is going to hold. Okay, we never know what's going to happen. All we can do is play the probabilities, right? And right now, a retest of 105, this right here is not enough for me to go out and buy the dollar. So I don't want to short the euro or the pound just because there isn't anything here telling me that the market is likely to hold above this and continue this rally that we've seen so far this year. So you can kind of see the dilemma here. On the one hand, I don't want to short the dollar into support. And on the other, I don't want to long it just because we do have a rather aggressive pullback. And there's no indication here, at least so far, that the DXY is going to hold above 105. Now, keep in mind too, before we go on to the euro and the pound, keep in mind too that the DXY still has this open gap from November. So back here on November 1st, we do have an open gap up here at 106.88. Typically, these areas tend to serve as a magnet. Of course, this year in 2024, it seems like anything goes. You would think when the DXY was back here, we would have seen that window, so to speak, close, and the market come up there and close that gap at 106.88. But obviously, the DXY had other plans, and we are seeing a retest of 105 instead. So just something to be mindful of, though, over the coming days, depending on what we get here. If the DXY were to reclaim this range, then I think this up here, that November 1st gap becomes a target up here, close to 107. Of course, if we were to see the DXY close below 105, then that would be bearish because it would put the DXY back below this key level and open up levels like 104.5 and the bottom of this channel down here closer to 104. All right, so let's go to move along here to the Euro USD. And if you guys are enjoying this content, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon for notifications. So I want to start here on the weekly because I think this is important to understand kind of what we're dealing with the Euro USD here. And this is why we've seen a lot of 2024 very indecisive, very sideways. And this is also why I said at the beginning of this video that 2024 has been, a bit challenging in terms of favorable price action. And this is one reason why, because you can see that even at the start of 2023, this has really just been one big range for the euro, and it's not always the cleanest range either. Okay, so with this in mind, we have a market that is very range bound. We know that range support is down around 1.06. We know that range resistance is up around 1.086. So I think that it's important to adapt to the current environment. And this is not a case where you want to be looking for, 300, 400 pip moves, because you're unlikely to get it, right? You're unlikely to get it before you potentially round trip a trade. And what I mean by that is, you can see back here that we do have the market reclaiming this area around 1.073. So we've talked about this for a while, and the euro is above that level. So technically, right, this down here is now support. However, we have resistance up here at this pivot, which we've also talked about. I mentioned this last week, in fact, this area around 1.08. So this has been a pivot. Furthermore, notice this big red candle right back here. We saw a very shallow retrace on the very next candle. And what I mentioned last week was that we did have an imbalance up here in this 108 area. So a lot of times these do serve as magnets, and that's what we saw here from the euro with that move up here on Friday. Now, obviously, we saw a pretty significant rejection here from the euro on Friday, not quite as big as the pound, but we did see this level come into play as resistance. Okay, so right now, support down here, resistance up here. And what I mean by, you shouldn't probably be looking for 300-400 pip moves is that this isn't really a trending market. We know that the euro is range bound because of that chart we just saw. All right, so we've got resistance up here at 1.086. This area up here, 1.06 is support. Now, another consideration is that right now, you can see that the euro is right between resistance up here and support down here. So if you're a swing trader, this right here is not really ideal. This is not what you want to see, because you want to be trying to look for shorts up here in this area and longs down here. Once the market starts to trade right here in the middle, it becomes really difficult to get a favorable entry and also secure a favorable risk reward. So again, all things to keep in mind here as we look at the euro, but you can also see where we have a trend line off of some of these highs. So off of these highs up here, we have a trend line that extends off of this high. So obviously the inception point back here, we've got this one and this one on Friday. So that makes this a confluence of resistance up here at 108 for the euro, to where if we were to see a break above this and the DXY gets below 105, remember that's going to be key. If the DXY gets below 105, we see the euro reclaim this area up here on the daily. It's going to open up areas like this up here around 1.0865. Now keep in mind that this up here is that long-term trend line. So this is going to be your range resistance for the euro. All right, so that's kind of the bullish scenario, at least in the short term for the euro. And what would turn this bearish would, of course, be a sustained break back below 1.073. So we've got this pivot through here. And if we were to see the euro close back down here in this area, right, within this consolidation again, then that, of course, would be bearish. However, a short from there really wouldn't be favorable, because we do have that long-term trend line, that ascending trend line down here off of these lows. Okay, so off of the low from back here in November of 2022, you can see that we've got this low, this one here, and this one. So even if we were to get the euro breaking back below 1.073, there really still isn't a whole lot to do, because you don't want to short this into that 1.063 level or so, right? Because there's limited room down here, and the risk reward would not be favorable. So really, ideally, from a risk reward standpoint, you're probably looking for the euro to move up here into range resistance, right? This area up here around 1.065, 1.09, this general area to potentially get short, right? Which would involve a close back up here in this area. That's probably the ideal scenario right now, just given the fact that the market is coming off of the lows. If it were to close back down here, you're dealing with more sideways chop. And again, the risk reward is not going to be great with that range support coming in right around 1.063. All right, next up, we have the pound here, which is a very similar story to the euro, of course. And you can see where we have this long-term trend line off of these highs. Okay, so the market is coming up there toward that level now. We have this level anchored off of this high. We've got this low, this one here, and this one recently. So very similar to the euro. This is why we have seen the market just kind of ranging here so far in 2024. And this is also why I mentioned recently that if you are long this market, either the pound or the euro, it does technically make some sense. However, in my opinion, you would have to be long from lower just because right now the market is, like the euro, trading right in the middle of this range. But from a technical standpoint, looking at the weekly, you can see where we do just have a range-bound market. Okay, now if we drill in here to the daily time frame, this area around 1.2535 is the one that we've talked about at length for weeks. And you can see here, okay, there are a couple things happening here that I want to talk through. All right, so this candle right here, technically, this candle reclaimed that level. Now, why did the next candle close below? And there is a very valid reason for this, and that is the end of the month. I talk about this a lot, but typically the last 24 to 48 hours of the month is erratic price action. You get a lot of institutions closing out their books. So stuff like this here, where we get the rally and then the sell-off back to back, that's more administrative driven, meaning that institutions are closing out their books, not necessarily conviction driven. So there was no conviction on this move. And this is what I mentioned to VIP members, that I was not going to take this long. I was not going to take this reclaim simply because it was the second to last day of April. All right, so I did pass up on this, and I'm glad I did, because obviously the next couple of days we saw the market take out that low. So looking at the pound now, we do have the market though establishing itself once again back above 1.2535, and that is going to be support now for the pound. Okay, so even though we saw a long upper wick here on Friday, technically the market is still above support, and this right here today is just the market kind of moving back to fill in the imbalance from Friday's long upper wick. So all in all though, I really don't see a whole lot to do here. It's kind of like I said before, you could technically look to play this as a reclaim of this level for a long back toward 1.27. The issue with that though is, once again, you've got to go back to the DXY, because right now the market is holding above 105. So if you're going to long the pound, okay, if you're longing GBPUSD, you are simultaneously buying the pound and selling the US dollar. So do you really want to sell the US dollar when it is holding above 105? I personally don't. Some people might be okay with that. Maybe some people have a different view of the market. But when a market is sitting on a support like this, I cannot justify shorting it. Okay, so flipping back to the pound, I can't justify longing the market because the DXY is above 105. I also can't short it though, because the market is technically holding above this area around 1.2535. So you can kind of see the dilemma, right? There's not a whole lot to do here, in my opinion, until we get some resolution, namely seeing the DXY either close below 105. Okay, so either closing a day down here, or we get the market closing back up here within this range. This right here would be bullish. This down here would be bearish. So in my opinion, until we get one of those two things, I think that trading the euro and the pound is going to be somewhat unfavorable. Now, you might be thinking, why make this video if trading the euro and the pound are unfavorable? And honestly, guys, one of the biggest determining factors of whether you're going to be profitable or not is knowing when to stay out of the market. It's not hitting the buy button or the sell button. It's knowing when not to trade. And I just think that this is one of those times, again, with the DXY holding above 105, but also holding below that recent consolidation. So I hope this has been helpful. I wanted to talk through kind of what I'm seeing out there right now with these markets. Again, it's just my opinion, but I would wait for some resolution here from the Forex market before you go out there trading either the euro or the pound. Subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to claim your 90% off VIP access to get real-time market discussions on Forex, crypto, commodities, and stocks. Also get the new course that just launched, as well as any future courses. Trade well out there, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.